History of wetland use and perhaps abuse in Iceland. Just a little outline. I will be talking about a little bit about Icelandic wetlands, just to give you an idea of what types of wetlands we're talking about. And then I will put this in a historical setting. I just don't want to talk about the wetland draining and how we have drained our wetlands without putting it in some kind of historical setting and why this was done. So I will give a little overview of historical use of wetlands, and then this period of seasonal flooding of wetlands. It's an interesting period. And then I will spend quite a bit of time on wetland draining, and then recent shifts in views, and a little bit in the end on wetland restoration. Okay, I know this is in Icelandic. This is very stretched. This is very strange to me anyway. This is just a legal text from the Parliament of Iceland, a legal definition of wetlands. It's the same as the Ramsar definition of wetlands, if you're familiar with it. And I'm just showing this in the beginning because there's lots of types of wetlands, and some of them I will not be talking about at all. Estuaries are wetlands, ponds and lakes and rivers, according to this definition. I will not be speaking about these today. I will be talking about our most common wetlands, that is the peatlands, or mires, or fens, or bogs, all kinds of names. They are quite a common ecosystem in Iceland, particularly in the lowlands. And I don't know, do you understand what I mean by peatlands? Peat accumulating wetlands. Wetlands, you can actually walk across them. You don't sink into them. They actually have soil. Thick organic layers, often many meters thick. The organic material has accumulated over time because of the high water table has resulted in insufficient breakdown of organic material, so organic material piles up. So you have this thick layers of organic material, thick soil, and like I say, you can walk across this, but there will be water in your footsteps. Okay? So they're fully grown, fully vegetated. There can be ponds, small ponds, but this is quite common type in Iceland. This is what I will be talking about, just so that's clear. Depending on how they are situated in the landscape, and therefore how the hydrology of these systems are, we separate them basically into three different types. What we call hallamýri, or sloping fens, and it seems strange to some people that wetlands can exist on a slope. And then flóamýrar, or flói, or level fen, and then these flooded areas, flæðimýrar, or intermittently flooded areas. Just to give you a little overview of this, we have these sloping fens which exist on slopes up to about 10-degree slopes, where there's water flowing from the mountainsides or hillsides, from springs in the mountainsides, and flows through the soil and maintains a permanently wet condition. Of course, it receives rainwater also, but this is the important factor, bringing lots of minerals into the wetland continuously from the mountainside. So they are reliant on this groundwater flow or soil water flow through, minerotrophic, very productive, very species rich, because there's lots of microhabitat and so on. Here you see there's a row of little springs along this hillside here. This is a gently sloping, about 3 or 4 degree slope here. You see the water here everywhere. And here's another view of another sloping peatland. Then we have the level one, of course, on flatland. Those rely on rain, or umbriotrophic, or rain-fed. Nutrient status is not as nutrient rich, because rainwater doesn't bring much nutrients. There can be species rich, but sort of medium, and small ponds are common. Here you see this often in the bottoms of valleys, small ponds, Cotton grass, very common. Here's another, all this red stuff is cotton grass. This one is more caris or sedge dominated. And then the flooded, yeah.
Will you be talking about Thuvur?
No, I will not be talking about Thuvur.
Just a practical problem. They will be going on a tour on
Yeah.
Sunday to Monday.
Yeah.
And I think that is the weirdest thing that they will meet. They will not understand what's going on.
Yes. Actually, if there are wet enough conditions, you will not have Thuvur developing at all. Thuvur is this hummocks that develop this very strange things. You need to talk to soil scientists like Ólafur Arnalds to get an explanation of these, but and we still don't understand it fully. We thought it was entirely due to frost processes, but then I and Ólafur went to the Azores Islands and we saw the same thing there where it never freezes, but does have volcanic soil. Yeah, Andres, he will probably talk about it. Okay. So then the third type is this flæðimýri, where, oops, what's this? Where floodwater either from the ocean, just the tides, or from rivers flooding will bring water intermittently onto these areas and therefore bring a lot of minerals and so on. Of course, receiving rainwater also, and floodwater channels are common in these systems. They're highly mineralotropic, very productive, but very slow in species. Somewhat like salt marshes in the States, for example. Here we see one, this is a mountainside, and this is the valley bottom. There's a river that is now flooding and flowing over these peatlands, or these wetlands, and bringing lots of, you see the river is very mineral laden, full of minerals, and deposits these onto these wetlands very regularly. And here's by the seaside, the sea floods this area regularly. You see the little ponds everywhere. And here's another seaside one. These are not rivers or streams, rather these are the channels that the tidal waters go in and out twice a day, flooding this area. Like I say, very species rich, often just one or two species covering large areas, but very productive. Okay, so this was just a very quick rundown of these types of wetlands that I've been talking about. They do differ from peatlands, if you are familiar with peatlands, like in other parts of the world, Scandinavia, Russia, North America. In that, they have received a lot of minerals into them because of volcanoes dumping ash into them continuously, like now, and also because of windborne material from erosion in the highlands, depositing a lot of minerals. So they are more firm and more mineral rich than similar systems in neighboring countries. We never really have, we don't have bogs, which is like the less fertile type of this system, and that's why I call them all fans. Anyway, if you're familiar with that. So now I will be giving a quick view of the history of wetland use in Iceland, but I will mostly be talking about the draining, which I think is what you're interested in. So Iceland was settled around the year 900, and for the longest time, for approximately 1,000 years, we basically used them in the same fashion, had certain extractive uses for these wetlands. And one was peat extraction. You see, this is a peat harvesting field by one farm. The farmers would dig these pits and bring the peat out and dry it and so on, use it for fuel. Very important in a treeless or virtually treeless country, no wood. But also they would use the sod or the peat to construct sod houses. These areas, especially the flooded, intermittently flooded areas, these very productive ones, they were very important for harvesting hay, for saving for livestock fodder, for winter time. And often when the upland systems failed,